percentage of the money. They would not control the money, and we do not control their zoning. So there is an important distinction there. And with CPF, it's the same way, where they come to us and say, we want to preserve a piece of land, or we want to do a water quality project, and the town board decides. They often say, well, we give you we generate all this money, we want our fair share. It's a good argument, but there's nothing statutory that guarantees a fair share. It's really up to the town board to make those decisions as, fairly as possible. Okay, so next up, and Amy, you want to speak later on too on hearing 6, correct? Okay. So Warren Dunn is next, wanted to speak on both hearing 2 and 3.
Hi, good evening. First off, I apologize for my appearance. I just got off work 5:45 and came straight here.
Hey,
You're good.
I apologize for mine. It's my uniform.
I'm in favor for both 2 and 3. I've been living up here for the better part of 4.5, 5 years. I've worked many different jobs up here. I've bartended, I've managed a restaurant, I've assisted an estate manager. Currently, I'm working for a pool company. And the rent up here it's too much. March 27th, I was abruptly and unjustly kicked out of my home, and I haven't been able to find any place to live. I've been sleeping in my car for 3 months now. I haven't had access to electricity, to running water. In order to shower, I have to either scrounge up enough money for a hotel for a night, or like walk into a gym and just go use their showers. It's been a real struggle for me. Just go and work and just look appropriate, I can't really shave. I don't have mirrors. I have access to very little. And something needs to be done in order to provide affordable housing for people in my situation or people in similar situations. I had to stop. I was pursuing a cybersecurity degree, my bachelor's degree. I had to stop that because I don't have electricity. I don't have Wi-Fi. I don't have access to any of these basic needs. When I'm not sleeping in my car, I'm in a campsite, and I have to bounce around from campsite to campsite because I can only stay there for a week at a time. I don't have most of my belongings with me, and I have to wait until my court date, July 7th, in order to see if I can get back into my home or not, because it was a legal loophole that was abused, and I'm the victim of it. And it's not fair. And the main reason we're still up here, my wife, my kids, and I are still up here, is because my son is excelling in the school system here. He just finished kindergarten, and he did great. He's learned a lot. He's shown a lot of growth. And within the school system, there's, I believe, 50 families that are all displaced. And because of the McKinley Act, luckily they're able to get free transportation to and from the school. But these kids, they're out in Riverhead, they're out, they're all over the place. And that's costing the town money for transportation, like gas money, all that kind of stuff. One time I was trying to apply for a shelter because I just wanted 4 walls and a bed, and they sent me all the way out to Middle Island. That was the closest shelter for a 32-year-old white male to sleep for a night, and that's not right. I'm tired of sleeping on a pile of clothes in the back of my car. It's just not fair. So again, I'm in favor of Agenda 2 and 3, and I hope something gets done about this soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Michael Daly, you're up next. You also indicated number 2 and 3, so if you need additional time, just let me know.
Thanks. I appreciate that. And thank you, sir, for coming and speaking so honestly to us. And that's not an uncommon story. Unfortunately, it's too common, and it's not just young people. It's also seniors. It's happening more and more than we certainly want to see. My name is Michael Daly, and I'm from East End Yimby. And Our hundreds of supporters are committed to the responsible and environmentally sound development of community housing for local residents. We realize that environmentally sound is not just about septic, which we understand is going to be done because there are regulations in place. And we know that nothing gets built unless it's environmentally sound today. But when we talk about environment, we not only want to protect wildlife, we want to protect human life. It's an important part of our environment. We also care about community character. We live here too. We don't want to see this turned into a suburb of Manhattan. But when you talk about community character, there's also the people of our communities that are part of that community character, right? It's the fishermen, the fisher people, the fishers, the farmers, the people who work in tourism, the artists. I was having a conversation with Inda Eaton yesterday, and we were talking about this, and I said, could Jackson Pollock come and move here now and start doing his art? Could Inda Eaton, could Nancy Atlas, could, so many of the important people that make up the fabric of our community, could they afford to come here now and reside here and bring their gifts to our community? It's unlikely with the housing situation that we're in. Our members are made up of essential workers, first responders, medical professionals, teachers, young people looking to have their first apartment, retirees looking to downsize into smaller spaces, and people born and raised here that have moved that want to come back. They just passed affordable housing legislation in Sag Harbor and announced a proposed 75-unit apartment building there. I've already had 10 people contact me and say, how can I get an apartment there? And the sad truth is it's going to be some time before we even get close to that. It'll probably be 2 or 3 years, even in an expedited fashion, even with the excitement and total support of the Sag Harbor trustees. It's going to take a while to do that. So we're not here to criticize or browbeat this board. We all recognize that we haven't done enough in recent years for housing. But we want to build on the success of some of the things that have been done, such as Spionk Commons and Spionk and Sandy Hollow and North Sea, created by the town of Southampton Housing Authority, and Georgica Green Ventures. Both of these developments have fit beautifully into our communities, and even though financed by New York State funds, have ended up with 80% or greater of local residents, right? And it has provided housing for local law enforcement, medical staff, teachers, town employees, and local employees, with the balance being the people who are moving here for jobs. So we recognize the importance of those types of community developments, and we want to build on them with you. We support the Peconic Bay Community Housing Fund legislation and the Southampton Town Housing Update to the Master Plan that clearly demonstrates the need for more community housing in our towns, villages, and hamlets. And we also recognize that smart growth is putting more housing where we do have to create it in our village businesses, business districts, and hamlets, where people are more able to live where they work where they live, walk to stores and things like that. It's a sound, green, environmentally sound strategy to build in hamlet business districts. We recognize that both the CHF legislation, the Community Housing Fund legislation, and the housing plan are enabling legislation that will allow the town to take steps to create community housing. One of the things that really excites us is that this Community Housing Fund, these funds will be able to support local community housing and have local preference for local people.
30 seconds.
We recognize, that's on 2. We recognize that the housing plan as presented is an update to the town master plan and does not go into the detail about exactly where the funds will be spent once this community housing fund is approved on November 8th. Between the passing of this enabling legislation and the referendum vote, we encourage the supervisor and town council members to all get behind identifying ways that the community housing funds can help create community housing in the township, so that each resident can see themselves in this legislation. They can see how it's going to benefit themselves, their families, their friends, and their businesses. We want to build on the success of the accessory apartment legislation that was put in place several years ago, that while it's produced some accessory apartments, a review of that legislation shows that it's too restrictive and needs to be rewritten to promote accessory apartments more widely. We want to support workforce apartments and business districts, and they're also needed to help businesses attract and retain employees, and to reduce this horrific trade parade. Employee housing for golf courses, restaurants, and other businesses needed to be added to the code to enable these businesses to be properly staffed.
Michael, just hold on one second. Sunny, was that 3 minutes or 6 minutes?
6 minutes, over 6 minutes now.
So you
Is
got-
it?
You got
It's
it.
I'm gonna tie
6
it up.
minutes and 40 seconds.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Time flies when you're having
It
fun.
does.
What can I say, right?
You
Don't
can just
let it-
wrap up, Michael, yeah.
Progressive senior housing, creating new codes for cottage housing, a code change allowing existing underutilized motels to be redeveloped. Lastly, the mechanism for shared equity needs to be explained. I think the housing plan in and of itself is a great generalized plan, but people need to understand more details. And you have that opportunity. We have that opportunity to express that between now and the election, and I think it's important that we do that. So we're here and we support resoundingly both of these legislations, and will publicly support you in implementing them moving forward.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, our next speaker is Ella Engel Snow. Hi, Ella. You also indicated number 2 and 3, so if you need more than the 3 minutes, it's fine.
Okay. I could not open what I wrote down, so you're gonna have to bear with me while I gather myself. But I spoke, was it a few weeks ago?
Yep, online.
Yep, online. So I am here again to support the adoption of the housing plan as an updated element to the town's comprehensive plan, and in support of the amendment of Chapter 140 in relation to creating a community housing fund to be funded by a 0.5% supplemental real estate transfer tax. And again, I don't have my talking notes, but I'm really happy that this is coming up. I think what Michael said, I support everything that he just said, and in particular, I think that we can't wait, right? I mean, that's what it is. And so, yes, I think that this conversation has to continue, and the details are really important, and I hope that for me, it's really important that this legislation is all-inclusive, and that there are multiple different avenues, and that it reaches multiple different incomes, so that there are, we create housing for people with very low income, with moderate income, and that there's the home ownership program, rental programs, and employer-based programs. But I don't think that we can wait just because it's not perfect, right? And so I just, we know that laws can change. And as I said last time, I work on a farm in Sagaponack. I grew up in Sagaponack. My parents grew up here. And when I love where I live, I love where I work. I I live on a family member's property. That's how I'm able to stay here on the income that I make. But when I look up in the field, there are mansions all around our farm fields. And, you know, some of them, they leave their lights on all night long. And most of those people do not live here. So I am at a loss for understanding why on earth that can happen, but we can't house the people who live here, who work here, the teachers, the farmers. I mean, I'm sorry, but we're at a breaking point. And, you know, aside from the fact that I, you know, may end up leaving because it's not a sustainable place to live, I don't want to live in a place that only centers rich people. I just don't, you know, and a lot of my peers feel the same way. So I work at the Bridgehampton Child Care Center as well. I'm about to go back to school to get my master's for social work. I don't have a really big ego, but I am an asset to this community, you know, and you're going to lose people like me if you don't make a change. Thank you.
I hope that's not the case.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy? Kathy Engel? Kathy, your daughter's a tough act to follow. but-
I always follow that. I'm lucky that I can. And I'm crying before I start. Good evening. I'm here in support of both 2 and 3. I'm not going to read them because you've heard them and you have them. I'm here with my daughter. I'm often here, I haven't been here for a while, but often with my mother, who's 97 and a half years old. I grew up in Sagaponack. My stepfather was a farmer. If he were alive today, I can't even imagine. You know, I wish he was alive. But the feeling of the place that you love and that you have contributed to, and where the people you love live, and the people you've worked with, the people you've worked with, right? Can't find a viable way to survive, to continue. I'm not saying anything new. It's just that I think there may be many more people who feel as deeply as those you, and thank you for hearing, and thank you for the work, and thank you, Michael, and all those who have been steadfastly working, and I know how slow change can be and how hard it can be. So I do want to express that gratitude. When my husband and I moved back here, because we were gone for a bunch of years, I really hesitated, because I was worried about raising our children in the place that I love so much, where I grew up, because of the economic disparity. Because when we say community, we mean community with people from all different backgrounds and who make different amounts of money and can come together to build something powerful. That's what this country is supposed to be, right? So most of my friends love to visit but couldn't live here. That's just the truth. The young people who are leaving, and the not just young people who are leaving, the farmers who can't afford to stay, and a lot of our neighbors, are leaving with something so powerful and rich and beautiful that is needed for a healthy, vibrant, and engaged community. So it's with heartbreak that I changed my plans to be here tonight, but I'm happy to be here. It's the only place to be. I particularly want to say I'm fortunate. I live in a house that we may, we're always saying we may have to leave. We may have to sell, we may have to leave, but I'm fortunate. I am very fortunate. I'm particularly interested, I'm interested in all the ways that the housing fund can be used. I'm particularly interested, because I have to speak from my own position and be honest about it, in the possibility of an accessory apartment. I think that's pragmatic, that's viable, and I hope that a lot of people in my situation would consider it. So I just wanted to speak from, that, when I think about, we used to go by all the big houses that were empty for, 9 months of the year, 10 months, and imagine what it would be like if people, who we work with or people we know or some of the artists and health workers and would just be able to live there for a few months, even to visit, to rest by the sea.
30
So
seconds.
this possibility of what I keep starting to say adjunct, but accessory apartments seems really meaningful and valuable and workable. And yes, I agree with my daughter. I follow my daughter with gratitude and pride. Time is out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. All right, Steve Giffer? Also on 2 and 3.
Hey guys again, thank you for having me. I just wanted to tell you guys I'm really impressed with this plan. It's like exactly what I was talking about a few months ago at the other public hearing. And Kara explained to us at the CAC that, the whole plan, I guess, and it really seems great. I don't know if she mentioned that in here, but she said there was some sort of plan to limit the amount of affordable housing in each area so that it's not going to be oversaturated in one specific area, which I think was brought up. And I think that's really important, that we're not just going to build it all on one street, and I'm really kind of impressed with what everyone else said, so I'm not going to, get into that aspect of it, but I really agree with that, and it's, really important. And as a millennial, it's almost impossible to live here. So many people I know had to move away. I actually was just briefly looking over the agenda for tonight, and a bunch of the people that resigned from the town that are whatever on the agenda, I actually know, and they had to move away, not because they didn't want to live here, but because it was just too expensive for them to afford on the town salary. And I think, that's really the problem. And me personally, I don't need affordable housing for my family, but I still see the importance for my businesses. I have several small businesses, and each one has the same problem. There is no employees. They cannot afford to live here. They don't want to drive hours to get here. I mean, I pass thousands of people going the other direction on my way here. And so we're not really sort of increasing the amount of people in the town. We're just sort of keeping them in the town so they don't have to drive back and forth each day. So I don't really think that's increasing the density. I think it's more of, improving people's lives, and that's kind of what we're looking to do. I mean, I think that, I think this is just really important, and this is a great plan. The only thing I think would be great to add to this plan would be to sort of find a way to speed up the process of getting things done. I know even just to get a regular building permit now is like a year out. And that probably is because there's no employees and everyone's short-staffed and whatever. And but if you guys can find a way to sort of simplify the process and speed things up, and and I hope that once this plan does come into play, that it'll be like a simple process that people can actually follow and get, and there'll be a way to do it, and it just won't be like in 5 years when everyone was already forced to move away because they can't afford their whole salary just to pay to live somewhere and work 100 hours a week. And I really think this is something that has to happen immediately before they're forced to move away, and not the I guess sort of declare it like a state of emergency, like what you guys did with COVID and all the great things you implemented so quickly, something like that. I don't know the exact terms, but find a way to speed things up, just, to get more people to work in the town and process applications and get things moving, because I think that is important. And most of the people that I graduated high school with are forced to move away because, you can't possibly afford to buy $1 million house and just coming out of college and live here and have a normal job. So, I mean, this is, I think, a great plan, and I really appreciate what you guys have done, and, I hope everything works out. And I also think that it would be important to have the board sort of from different areas in the town, so they could sort of specialize in, like, this is my little area, I know this street will be good for affordable housing, this street may not be good, or something like that.
30 seconds.
And that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you.
Okay, that is the last card from the live audience here. Is there anyone who didn't fill out a card who wanted to be heard at public hearing 2 or 3? Okay, seeing none. Charles, is there anyone watching via Zoom that would like to be heard? If you can hear me, please click the raise hand icon, and our administrator will bring you in.
This is Cheryl Heather. Is it my turn? I missed that?
Yeah.
It is your turn, Cheryl, if you can hear me, but we're trying to get your video on.
Okay, thank you.
We can hear you, though. If you want to begin, and
Sure.
we'll keep the meeting moving, and though we'd love to see you, if Charles can work that out.
You have to put your own video on.
That's okay.
On your screen, if you wish, Heather, just click the little video camera somewhere, maybe bottom left. It might have a slash through it. Click it, and then you will appear magically.
There we go.
There you go.
Hi, everyone. I'm here this evening representing the Southampton Business Alliance as Executive Director. And we are a business advocacy group that was formed in 1992 to protect the interests of businesses throughout the town of Southampton. As I hope at least some of you are aware, the Business Alliance has had workforce housing as a core mission from day one. We started our first workforce housing project, and I know workforce housing isn't a term we're using anymore for this project, but I'm going to keep using it. We started our housing projects in 2008 with property that we received from the town, vacant property, and with a group of volunteers, we built our first 2 homes, accessory apartments, green homes, in Sagaponack. And so the homes are awarded to the homeowners through a very strict application administered by Long Island Housing Partnership. And then those people qualified for the mortgages and then had an accessory apartment in their home. So they were producing income and giving homes to the families. So we have done several of those projects. We are no longer receiving that vacant property, but we're still so hopeful that something is actually going to work maybe this time. And if we felt that this 0.5% tax would create workforce housing in sufficient quantity to be effective, I would personally be leading the parade in court. But after all these decades of trying to get something accomplished, I just still don't see that there is a will for this on the part of elected officials and on the part of a lot of people in this community. There is constant confusion that needs to be rectified between community housing that's intended for qualified residents. Confusion between that and subsidized housing or illegal overcrowded housing perception must change before something's really going to happen. As soon as we say workforce, affordable, community, everyone goes into panic mode. In 2017, the town gave us a great parcel in the Red Creek section of Hampton Bays. That was the former Girl Scout property, and that would have been our third workforce housing project. The outrage in the Red Creek neighborhood against us and this concept was so loud that we actually gave the parcel back to the town and took a parcel in Tuckahoe instead. There, we very quiet, and three of you, Jay and Tommy John and John Bouvier, were at that ribbon cutting. The project took 2 years. We very quietly created 2 energy efficient homes that were awarded to 2 locally employed families who qualified through the Long Island Housing Partnership mortgage lottery. During construction, we didn't even put signs up thanking people who were helping us on this project because we didn't want community reprisal. This is reprisal against homes that were going to be occupied by nurses or teachers or maybe salesmen or carpenters or other working local residents who qualified for mortgages. So we know that Assemblyman Thiel has been working on this for several years, and we actually met with him in the beginning 3 or 4 years ago on this and suggested that let's take the 0.5% out of the 2% that's there, which has a surplus, but we accept that that's not going to happen. It's a completely separate issue now. So let's actually this time work together with the business community, do some, and I remember sitting in the supervisor's office years ago, I hope you remember this conversation, we were talking about this and you and I said, we need to do a PR campaign. This is the face of workforce housing. I mean, it's who's workforce housing, it's everyone. And the other speakers were talking about being inclusive, absolutely. We're ready to roll up our sleeves, work with the town board to ensure that there is a workable plan in place. I think the project is expected to garner 10 to 13 million a year. This draft has many great pieces. We want to do everything in our power to help make it into a real workable plan that everyone in the community can support. Every voter in the town of Southampton needs to start by looking at what community housing means. A community housing plan is workforce housing, is housing for seniors. It is not subsidized housing.
30 seconds.
It is housing that's made available through a vetted process that benefits local middle class, local families, local young people, local seniors, so they can stay here. So please, everyone needs to stop being afraid of this term and realize that we're in a crisis and we need a plan that will actually work. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
All right, Charles, can you bring on the next speaker?
Lorraine is next.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the name.
Lorraine.
Lorraine, okay.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Pacelio, and I live at 23 Nash Avenue in Flanders, and I'm just speaking on my own behalf for this public hearing. I am in favor of the housing fund. However, I think the annual income limit of $155,000 to $181,000 and homes valued up to approximately $1 million is way too high to help those truly in need. such as those people that have spoken before me, and for what the need is in the community. However, the town may gain more support if the law, if it will only provide help for people who work or live east of the canal. That's the place that we need the most affordable housing be placed. The traffic and congestion must be taken into consideration for the safety of everyone. Please don't write the law to add any more commuters to the trade parade, which has already overrun the East End. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Charles, please bring in the next speaker.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great, thank you. Sorry about that. Good evening. Today, I am here today as the Executive Director of Housing Help, Inc.
Can you-
HUD certified.
Can you just tell us your name, please?
Sure, my name is, I'm sorry about that. My name is Pilar Moya Mancera, and I am the Executive Director of Housing Help, Inc., a HUD certified housing counseling agency serving residents of Western and Eastern Suffolk County. For decades, our organization has fought to ensure that Long Islanders have access to safe and secure housing. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and its enduring economic consequences, Long Island and New York State have faced the largest housing shortage that we have seen since the Great Recession. Great Recession meaning 2008, 2009. Every day, we speak to ever-growing numbers of tenants as well as landlords who are facing evictions and foreclosures, and there seems to be no end in sight. It is for these reasons that we support the adoption of the housing plan as an updated element of the town's comprehensive plan, and we also support amending Chapter 140, the Community Preservation Fund, in relation to creating a community housing fund right here in the town of Southampton. As the cost of living is on the rise and the inflation rate, it is now at 8.6%, incomes have failed to keep up with the housing cost for both owners and renters. And according to data collected from the town of Southampton's website, 42.2% of Southampton households are housing cost burden, meaning that these households are spending more than 30% of their income on housing costs, whether rent or mortgages and upkeep. According to the same website, 22.8% of Southampton households are severely housing cost burden. These households are spending more than 50% of their income on housing costs. And to make things worse, since January 15 of 2022, there have been 80 new eviction filings for the town of Southampton, which is the highest number in the entire in the East End. We believe that these both resolutions tackle the ongoing housing crisis and will allow for the creation of housing for those who need it most. As a Long Island-based housing counseling and advocacy organization, we also believe that these both resolutions will shed light on how severe this crisis has been for our region in particular. With your support, Southampton will create opportunities for affordable housing for its residents, like accessory apartments, manor houses, or others. We ask that you join us in investing in the current and the future success of the Southampton community in providing long-awaited and much-needed housing for our essential workers, teachers, young people, disabled individuals, the elderly, and others who cannot longer afford to live in this beautiful, thriving community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bringing in the next speaker.
Am I up? It's
Yes.
Bryony.
Hi, Bryony.
Okay. Hi, Bryony Frage. I am a resident of Sag Harbor. I'm a member of East End DMV. I'm here today to support both number 2 and 3 tonight. to support the adoption of a housing plan, and I support the amending of Chapter 140. I am personally not in need of these, any benefits from these funds, but I'm acutely aware that were it not for my own family privilege and family, my husband, who's a teacher at Pearson, and myself, who's a social worker, serving children in our community, would never be able to afford to live here. And I'm also acutely aware that everyone benefits from community housing, not just those who qualify. So people who I rely on to drive my kids to school on the school bus, to prepare my food, to fix a plumbing emergency, to run our local government, I'm going to benefit from them having housing here too. And so I also just wanted to, thank the people who are speaking, from their own personal experience and need for this type of housing. Like Ella said earlier, I really hope that this fund helps people of all income levels, not just the people hovering at the, whatever the income level, max is. But at all levels of income, and that it goes to support rentals as well as purchasing for new homes, because we need all of that. I also don't want to live in a place that only caters to the wealthy, and I don't want to live in a place that only caters to people like me. I want a vibrant community, and we're losing those people every minute. So thank you for bringing these up. And I very, very much hope that we can get this on the ballot come November. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
No other hands.
Okay, no other hands. All right, and Carrie, we're hoping to close this today, correct? We can leave the written record open, or is that what you're looking to do?
So we do have a time constraint here. We have to get the referendum language and your authorization to send that to the Board of Elections, and it has to be there by August 8th. Your next town board meeting is July 12th, so it would be our hope that we would have resolutions on for your consideration at that time. So it's up to the board. If you want to leave it open, I just want you to be aware of the timeframe
Well, we
there.
can certainly close the public hearing, whether we want to leave the written record open for 1 week.
Yeah, I'd like to do that as one of the sponsors on this bill, is to close the public hearing for tonight and leave it open for written response or written input for the next 2 weeks.
For 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Bring us to the 12th.
And
How
there's
does the board feel about that?
two things that were said tonight that, if you
just
wouldn't
me.
mind, if I could just address them. I think one of the speakers was concerned about the down payment assistance being something similar to like the rentals in New York City, where they're passed down from one family member
rent
to another.
control,
Yeah, the rent control. And I can tell you that we do have a measure in place to prevent that. There will be, God bless you, when there is a lien, that when we do give out a down payment assistance, there will be a lien placed on the property. And that lien would, just like any other lien that's placed on a property, if the property is transferred, it has to be paid off. So we do have a measure in place for that. Another speaker did mention something about the equitable distribution of the affordable housing in all of the communities, and that's right in the Act itself. The Act does say that the plan shall provide for equitable distribution of community housing opportunities among all communities of the town. The plan shall ensure that no community is cited for an undue concentration of community housing opportunities that would substantially alter the character of the community. So that's something that the board would have to follow, because it's in the plan itself.
All right, thank you, Kara.
Thank you.
All right, so Tommy John is making a motion to close the public hearing but leave the written record open for 2 weeks. Is that till July 12th? or-
Well, before, could I just ask a question? We don't have any other referrals in this, right? So August 8th is the time it has to get to BOE. No other referrals from now, from when we close it to any other, like Suffolk Planning or anything like that, correct?
That's right.
All right,
yes.
so it's fine. I think the time will work.
Right. The plan only needs to be approved, and the plan would be what would have to go to Suffolk County Planning. That doesn't need to be approved until we're ready to spend money. So the plan would have to be approved before then. But the plan is out there now so that the public can see what we're anticipating using the funding for.
Yeah, so just to be clear for the public, that's a referendum that's coming up in November to actually pass to be able to get the funding in order for us to make those subsequent referrals and so forth.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
So, I'd like to make a motion to close public hearing 2 and leave it open for written comments until July 12th.
Second. Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to make the same motion for public hearing number 3 to close the public
Same
hearing
second.
and leaving it open for written comments until July 12th.
All right, seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Kara. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, guys.
Right. Madam Clerk, would you read the 4th public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 4, to amend the designation of certain property on Old Country Road, Remsenburg, Spionk, in the CPF project plan and in the CPF stewardship and management plan.
Okay, introducing this will be Lisa Combrink, our CPF Program Manager.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We did begin this hearing at the last meeting that you had, and there was a question raised about whether the correct designation and properties were included. I did confirm that, in fact, Lot 5.2 was categorized in the farmland preservation area of our project plan, so it's only that lot that we're asking to be redesignated in the project plan and also in the stewardship management plan, so that Lot 5.2 can be included in the plans for the
Right, so the
recreation.
bulk of the property was slated in a category that would allow for active recreation.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and it was just this one little triangle that somehow went into agricultural.
Yep, it was already in the ag area, so this would redesignate it to the correct category.
Okay,
All right, so that's really all. I think you
So,
can close the
okay.
hearing tonight if you so choose, and then we would adopt the change at the next meeting.
okay, so let me just see if there's anybody from the public who wishes to be heard. Is there anyone first in our audience that wishes to be heard on designating a small portion of the Woodfield Gables property? We've been calling it. It's a large group of land in the Spionk area. I guess Old Country Road. This would be just designating a small portion of it that was designated for agriculture to be designated for open space and public recreation, right?
So like a park? Is that it?
Yes. Yeah.
What is a small portion?
It's a 165 acre property. The triangle is a couple acres, a few acres.
So you will need a small portion.
Relative to the bulk of the property, yes. So we are looking to do some sports fields there on this property. Okay, is there anyone who wishes to be heard? All right, seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
That is closed. Madam Clerk, the 5th public hearing notice?
Public hearing number 5 on the acquisition of land of Albert W. Robertson Jr. and amend the CPF management stewardship plan to include the property.
All right, Lisa Combrink, our CPF Program Manager, will introduce this.
Thank you. The subject of this public hearing is the possible acquisition of property located at 24 Sugarloaf Road in Shinnecock Hills. I'm going to point it out on the aerial. The area in question is outlined in yellow here. The areas that are shown in green on the aerial are protected. I'll show the areas that are CPF purchased here and here. The area that's to the south is the former Napa property where CPF purchased conservation easement.
And do you remember when those were purchased by CBF, by the town?
All of these properties in the vicinity were purchased within the last, I'd say, 18 months.
Is that including the adjacent property to the east?
Yes.
Okay.
That one was purchased probably the Napa easement was probably the most recent, and then, can't remember the name of this owner, but this was within the last year.
Okay.
So the property is owned by Albert Robertson Jr. It's .49 acres in size, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-209-388. It is contained in the project plan of CPF under the Shinnecock Hills Greenway designation, and the purchase price is $700,000. You can see that the property, most of it has been cleared, and if it was the board's choosing, we could do a revegetation plan on that property, similar to the one that we did on this property.
Lisa, are we considering this one because of its cultural sensitivity?
Yes, that's part of the reason. It is located at a higher elevation, and that's also why we focused on these other lots on Sugarloaf and Ridge Road in the area.
Right, so this is within that Fort Hill area?
Yes, it is.
But you said it was disturbed, it's been cleared. Do we know if there was any subsurface disturbance here?
I don't believe so. I believe it was cleared so that it could be marketed for sale as a possible redevelopment site. But, nothing, there were no permits issued for it to even start construction, and I don't believe anything has been done.
Okay. Would this be a property that would be stewarded or potentially stewarded with some of the other culturally sensitive properties that, through the Joint Management and Stewardship Committee?
It could be, yes, absolutely. It was, the many properties in this area were identified as potential targets by that Joint Committee for Acquisition. And for the property that's to the southeast, this one, unfortunately, the former owner began clearing on that property. It was before you adopted the moratorium and the regulations for properties in this area. And so CPF, after we acquired it, did do a restoration on that property. If you drive by, you'll see it looks a little scraggly right now, but we hired an outside contractor and planted native species and some small trees that are starting to come in. And they won't require any watering or anything. Really tried to be sensitive to what would grow easily in this area.
Right,
So we could do a similar thing on this property.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this is a half acre, and this could presumably take a single-family home.
Absolutely, yes.
So I think it's apropos that, we address the fact that our Community Preservation Fund is kind of squeezing the housing market out here on the East End. And I hope the community sees that the Community Housing Fund that was a previous public hearing is actually sister legislation to the Community Preservation Fund. Now, this is a good purchase. It's culturally sensitive. It's near Sugarloaf. We've certainly made this a priority, but CPF has been purchasing a significant amount of land that could have been land for housing. Now, we're saving what's left, but I think it kind of helps the argument with the Community Housing Fund to have something in place to get people in housing situations, because not only is the market driving the housing crunch out here on the East End, but we are actually exacerbating it as well.
Well,
I do support this.
What is the purchase price?
$700,000.
Yeah. I mean, it would be challenging on, yes, it is a small, relatively small lot at a half acre at $700,000, then putting a house up at today's cost of construction. It would be challenging to make it affordable.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that a house could have been put there.
Yeah.
But we're purchasing it, and
Yeah, but-
we are going to sterilize it, and that's how
I
it's
just
going to
think, if we do not act here, it will not end up being an affordable house. There will be a house there, but it will be a $2 million home by the time they're done.
That's correct, Mr. Supervisor, and we've seen in our appraisals for the properties in this area over the last 2 years in particular, the values have gone up exponentially on all these
Yeah,
lots.
I'm just trying to, and I appreciate your comment, because sometimes, we have different goals, and sometimes they can compete with each other for land. They're both important goals, creating affordable housing and protecting open spaces and culturally sensitive properties. I think, though, in this case, I don't think they're in conflict.
And it is worth saying that we don't purchase everything that comes on the.
That's true.
We do pick and choose, and we do leave lots that we feel would benefit the housing market more so than preservation. So it's not like we sterilize everything that comes on.
Well,
Right,
we
that wouldn't
do
wanna-
that with water quality money, too. We buy properties to put aside for future septic system or, small systems to be put in place. And I think that's beneficial to community housing as well, so.
And open land preservation and farmland preservation, all the things that we do is absolutely important, back at 100%. It's squeezing the housing market.
Absolutely. It has made our job of creating affordable housing more difficult, there's no doubt.
But on the other hand, a lot of those larger parcels that we purchased, had they been subdivided, would have been way beyond the normal person's means anyway.
I know.
So
It
works
would have
both
created
ways.
more labor demand and more
Yeah.
traffic. Right. It's,
Double-edged sword.
it's an incredible challenge we face. We have a limited supply of land, and it is highly sensitive ecologically, environmentally, and
And it's also expensive.
there's only so much sustaining, ability to sustain the population and provide infrastructure and roads and water and everything else to it. Finding that right balance so we have a sustainable community, it's not easy. Lots of people with, financial means want to own in our area, and I can understand it. It's a limited supply, and it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. So we have tough work to do in light of that. It's like swimming against the waterfall. In light of that, we have to still create opportunities for our workforce, our firefighters, our school teachers, our police officers, even our elected officials, to be able to live in the community. It's a major challenge. But anyway, this one I think is worthy of preservation because of its cultural sensitivity.
Here, here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this potential or possible acquisition? All right, no one here at Town Hall. Charles, anyone watching on their computer? Yeah, I'll make a motion to close.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to the sixth and final public hearing.
Public hearing number 6, to consider amending Town Code, Chapter 270, rental properties.
All right, Sean Cambridge, Assistant Town Attorney, will introduce this. He is joined by Ryan Murphy, our Public Safety Director.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and members of the town board.
Can you just pick that mic up a little?
Sure, absolutely. Good evening, everybody. So I introduced this at our last town board meeting and spoke about some of the more technical aspects. Today, I'll keep it a little more brief. Essentially, we're writing and proposing this legislation because the means of ownership, occupying, renting property have evolved since this code was drafted, and we are keeping up. This code is meant to protect tenants by making sure they have safe, habitable, inspected dwelling units. This protects homeowners. Your home's not so valuable when you have a party house next door. This is a way to ensure that does not happen. These laws are written to protect people within this town, to make sure people renting are in safe conditions, and to protect the people who've invested to live here and maintain a home here. So that's what we're trying to do. We are focused on streamlining some of our processes. A common criticism is, I bought my house without signing paper documents. Why can't I get a rental permit? So we're looking to do that. We're looking to streamline. We're going to e-permitting. We are clarifying some of these processes. We're enhancing our enforcement ability by being more specific in defining terms. I'm going to turn it over to Ryan Murphy.
Thank you, Sean. Thanks, board. I think Sean, definitely captured it well in kind of setting up what we're trying to do here. The changes that we're proposing to the code really address some of the legal changes that have occurred since this code was originally adopted, whether it's definitions or procedures on a legal basis. It also kind of changes and addresses, or rather it addresses changes and trends that we've seen, in property ownership and things of that nature, to take some of those types of things into consideration, where previously the code may have specified that a certain form was necessary that didn't really take into consideration, LLCs or corporations or this or that or the other thing, and required a very onerous process that isn't really necessary for the part of some of the applicants. And this will also feed into and help us to try and streamline things a little bit more on e-permitting with various types of ownership that do exist out there. It makes it challenging sometimes with some of the old, dare I say, antiquated ways of doing things, to try and move ourselves forward, technologically speaking, to allow people to do what we want them to do. And when we take, lessons learned from COVID and limited access and closures and people with, concerns about being exposed in different environments, it's nice to be able to make some of the changes that we want to make it easier for people to do the things that we want to do. The code addresses, some of the other procedural things that we've like to address, or that we would like to address, and again, lessons learned from years of dealing with different questions, concerns, problems that we've encountered within different rental situations that we've come upon, and it kind of sets the stage for the future too. This code, the code changes that we're proposing, allow for the possibility of different developments that we might be interested within the town, and sets up language to address, whether it is a multi-unit development that we're interested in. And I'm not saying that every part of the town is the right place to put something like that, but we want the options to exist. And this does create options for us to do that. And that doesn't necessarily mean an apartment building. It could be a condominium or a townhouse complex where it's all on one parcel, shared by one owner, and makes it so that an application can be done for the complex as opposed to every single little individual unit in it. So it really kind of addresses some of the changes that need to occur, whether because of legal modifications that have occurred over the years, whether because of lessons that we've learned and changes within community and definitions and things like that. But it also sets the stage for us to not necessarily have to change this again for a little while, because it establishes a good pathway into the future for us too. So happy to, along with Sean, entertain any questions that happen to exist on this. I know it's been brought up before, so I don't know if there are any existing questions from the board or if there are any from the audience as well.
Ryan, on your square footage, I know overcrowding has been an issue, but you have you are following the state guidelines, are you not, in terms of how many people per square foot of bedroom area?
Currently, yes. This would fine-tune that a little bit more to decrease some of those numbers, but still allow for very good and reasonable occupancies within households. You'll see some of the proposed changes allow for up to 5 people, or not to exceed 5 people in a bedroom space. That's a lot. I think most of us would agree 5 people in one bedroom starts to turn into sleepaway camp. But the way that the code is currently addressed in the state of New York, you start to get increases for every 50 square feet of space. We have a lot of houses within the town that have 300, 400, 500 square foot bedrooms within the house. The way the code existed prior, it's kind of in conflict with what our goals are. We don't want to have a 40-person party house, but by allowing for one additional person for every 50 square foot of space, if you have a 400 square foot bedroom, you're saying that you can put 8 people in there. You add a couple of 200 square foot and a couple of 300 square foot bedrooms into that same household, you very quickly get to a point where you're at a rating of, 30, 40 people in the house. So it's,
You made it
this,
100?
this goes into, and we, in order to get to some of those numbers, we looked at codes from other jurisdictions that had learned over the years and kind of fine-tuned the numbers to make it in line with what the community goals are too.
If I can add to that.
Yeah.
So the state is not necessarily litigating and writing codes for the needs of the town. That's what you're all here for. So the state doesn't necessarily know what housing would look like specific to the town. We're allowed to be more restrictive and more specific than the state. In upstate New York, you may not have a house with these huge bedrooms that Mr. Murphy has described. So this is our way of regulating locally and sensibly.
Well, the state is primarily concerned with fire safety.
Correct.
Egress, et cetera. So
Yeah,
you have.
the state tends to just look at
I just
the
want to make
structure,
sure,
not
we
the
have,
use.
we have some people of modest means living in relatively small houses, and you might have a bedroom with, 3 kids, a bunk bed and a single bed. And I'm just trying to use your formula to see how big that bedroom would have to be.
So the important thing to take into consideration here is that this is for rental properties. So an owner-occupied home doesn't fall into the same category in terms of the rating. This is a rating for
But it might-
rental properties, but it still does allow for.
Might be a year-round rental,
Yep.
though, with a family that's relatively small, that's the thing that they can
Correct.
afford. I'm with you, I think, in terms, I don't want to see overcrowding, and it's dangerous. But I just want to make sure we're not preventing what might be a relatively normal living situation by being overly burdensome.
One of the things that this really does is still allow for 2 and 3 people to be in average or normal size rooms, what many of us are probably accustomed to. Where it addresses things is kind of puts a stop on continuously increasing the occupancy past 4 or 5 people if you have a larger room. That's where it addresses it. It's more at the top end of it, but allows
I
for the
haven't
appropriate
done
occupancy
the
of
numbers, but
smaller
let's
rooms.
say somebody had a 12 by 12 or something, let's say 150 square foot bedroom. Could you have it could certainly fit a bunk bed and a single bed.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Could you do that under your code?
I believe
Three
I believe
people.
we take that into consideration appropriately and allow for that to occur. And you're also looking at the rating on the code is the rating for the household based on the bedroom sizes. So if you've got other rooms too in the house that are rated at 2 and 3 and 4, that can be distributed out throughout the house. It's to establish the rating for the home
So
itself,
let's
not
just
the
test
individual
that. So
bedroom.
12 by 12 is rough, 144 square feet. So you get, for 2 occupants, 120, right? And then is a minimum, right? 2.5, of at least 120 square. And then a third person, you need an extra 100 square feet. So that would be 220 you would need, right? Am I reading it wrong? As the minimum? So 144 would not be big enough to have 3 children in it.
But again, it speaks to the occupancy of the entire house. So there's a redistribution of the numbers throughout the home.
Oh, there is?
Yes.
All right.
What you determine from looking at the individual bedroom square footage is the occupancy of the entire household.
And again, if I may add.
Okay, so it's square footage of the house? It looks like it says square footage of the bedroom area.
Correct. But that can be spread out amongst all of the bedrooms within the house.
And there's a provision for that in this? What section is that?
That's the way the rating is determined under the Code of the State of New York for the Uniform Fire and Building Code of the State. So we still refer back to that in terms of the procedures on how the occupancy is determined in the house. This just
Okay, so
changes
it's
the square
not
footage.
in, that
It's implied by the
distribution
law.
is not in here,
The calculation method is founded in the state
in the state.
code, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, we do have, so this is not intended, you have 3 children sleeping in a bedroom. There's no one coming in the middle of the night to see how many people are in that bedroom. This is intended for, we do a rental inspection and we can rate how many people this is appropriate for. Of course, our officers have discretion. They have common sense.
So if somebody comes in for a rental permit, you're telling them that this bedroom can have 2 people, this bedroom can have 3?
Correct.
That's your max, okay.
To be fair, Supervisor, what we're telling them is what their occupancy rating is
For
for
the
the
house.
entire household. How they distribute that occupancy throughout the house is discretionary to the applicant.
Okay,
So if they have a room that's 300 or 400 square feet that would get them more of a rating, that can be distributed out amongst the other
To a
rooms. They
point,
don't
I don't-
necessarily have to put
again, I don't want
4
to see
people in that one
a
room.
bedroom overcrowded either, where the kids can't get out.
Correct.
Or the occupants can't get out if there was a fire, so, all right, thank you. Any other questions?
I have a question. If I,
Hold on, let's go with the board.
Hold on.
Amy, actually,
Nobody can hear you.
I have you for speaking on this, but if you wait 1 minute, let me get the board's questions first for our public safety director, and then we'll bring you up. All right.
Sure. There are several aspects of this particular code that makes it easier for the homeowner to obtain permits and actually submit the permits. So, I mean, that's an important.
Yes,
like,
without a
For
doubt.
example, you don't no longer need a notary public signature on a piece of paper. There's an attestation form that's online.
Yeah, for an example, to go towards, and maybe it'll come up again in a second because I know you started to allude to a question you had. But for example, for like LLC ownership, and that doesn't apply to everybody. Different people have different properties within different ownership statuses. The previous way of doing things, someone would have to produce all of the paperwork that founded that LLC and have every single individual member sign off on that paperwork. We've migrated to a much more preferred way of doing things from a legal standpoint and having an attestation form that's signed off instead for that application. If you had to do it the old way, it would make it almost impossible for us to be able to digitize and go online with application processes because you could be looking at uploading and this is a burden for us now with a lot of our files, trying to create space and things of that nature. You'd have to potentially be uploading a 20, 30, 40, 50-page document with everybody signing off on it. And if family members that are members of that trust or LLC are in different places, trying to get all of them with signatures on the same piece of paper becomes really a problem too, so.
And also keep in mind, even if someone were to lie and hold themselves out as the authorized person for that corporation, we are not the enforcement authority for that. That would be a perjury charge, chargeable by the Suffolk County DA's office. So this actually is much clearer. We have one piece of paper where someone has held out their role. If they are lying, by all means, we'll send that piece of paper over to the DA's office, and they can address that with the prosecutor over there.
Fantastic. And as far as anyone with the enhanced star rating or a veterans exemption or senior citizens exemption in the town code, they get a reduced fee for the permits.
They do. The only difference we've made here is those numbers for those fees were codified. We've taken them out of the code and put them into the fee schedule, which is appropriate and typical. That allows the town board some flexibility, and you can adjust it as you move forward.
Without having to go back and change the law.
Correct.
The new public hearing, we just
Yep.
changed the fee schedule.
Exactly.
Thank you.
And that's follows the pathway that many of our other
Most,
fees
yes.
throughout the town follow, where it's submitted with the budget and the fee schedule is approved annually by the board.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we'll go to the public. Amy Paradise, you indicated you wish to be heard on this.
Oh, please, I think I interrupted you. Come on up.
Thanks for your patience.
Actually, I don't really have much to say on it. The rental rules are just, it's all so complicated. You combine it with the building permits, and I don't know how you figure it all out. I had a question about the LLC thing, though. Going back to the way you're permitting is like going back 20 years. All of a sudden, owners actually have the right to rent their property without too much, without running into a wall entirely. But LLC stuff, whether or not everybody signs off on it, you need to know who the people are. There are other reasons beyond just safety that you want to know who is owning and renting property. It goes to just politics and all kinds of things. I don't think you should, how do I say that? LLCs are misused to disguise ownership interests, and it's way out of control in all kinds of ways, and they should be required to at least name them. That information should be publicly available. They shouldn't be able to hide behind an LLC who they are. Whether you want to make them, like I said, you don't have to have every last person sign, but it should be visible who's owning. That's all. And the 5 people thing, what constitutes a household? So my grandmother rented her back bedroom all of her life. It was the only income she had. I think under your rules, she wouldn't be allowed to do that anymore, because the person would not be sharing her household, just living there, not a relative. How does it really, I couldn't quite get my head around all the names and numbers and figures there.
Well, you're going to need to answer.
This doesn't change the code as far as borders in the town of Southampton. So you still would be allowed to board up to 2 rooms within a residence to whoever you wish to do so with. So this wouldn't change her ability to do that.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that the fire marshal wasn't involved in this. And the other thing, none of this addresses what I see as the biggest problem, which is these little motels and everything, tiny little units that have been allowed to be used as year-round residences for entire families. Seashell Cottages down on the corner of Bay Avenue and Lynn Avenue, you've got I don't know what's in there right now, but there were families of 4 and 5 people living in these things year-round. The ones over on Rampasture Point, somebody I worked with is living there with her little boy and her mother and herself in... It's a room with a kitchenette in the corner. Where else? Although I'm not sure exactly whether it's in Hampton Bays. It's, the places on Montauk Highway, east, those shabby little motels. It's not, I know it's all the people can afford, but if you want unsafe, awful housing, how does any of this address that? I mean, it seems to completely escape it. We all talk about the personal houses, and the last thing is, how does any of this go after Airbnb stuff? I don't think it does.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ron.
So just two different quick answers on that, and we could probably talk for a long time about it. One, the questions about some of the motels or hotels that are used for year-long residence and activity like that. It's a constant battle, and the code does address it. The rental code doesn't necessarily address it. The fire code addresses it, zoning code addresses it, the C of Os for the properties do, and we do get reports on a lot of these types of things on a regular basis, and the fire marshal's office goes out, and in particular because they're commercial establishments, the fire marshal's office goes out and does address them. But it's a constant chase. It's a constant chase because it happens, things get fixed, then they go back, after 6 months, they start to do the same thing again. So we do have issues with that on a pretty regular basis. There's also a process in place within the town of Southampton and the Department of Land Management that if an establishment that was a former motel or hotel would like to convert into, say, like a residential cooperative for year-round occupancy, there's a pretty streamlined process to do that. There are some sizing limits on the units that have to be met, that if they don't meet those sizing units, they would have to get a variance. But there is a pretty simplified, almost administrative process so that it's not too cumbersome to be able to convert something that was, say, a former motel or hotel into year-round residents that could be in the community all the time. So kind of a couple of different, answers to that question. And in the process of answering that question, I forgot the second part.
Oh, she mentioned Airbnb.
Airbnbs. So first of all, it's like, Bilco Doors, that's just one brand. It's just sheetrock, it's just one brand. I don't want to single out Airbnb in this process. They just happen to be kind of one of the first ones on the scene, but we're talking about, a method of renting. So it's VRBO, it's Out East, it's Airbnb, it's a variety of different things. I certainly don't want Airbnb to get angry that we're singling them out on this. It's a method of renting. And using Airbnb or VRBO is a fine way to conduct rentals. You can do that. It just has to meet the minimum standards of stay. And we're on a regular basis looking at properties that are being advertised for rent below the minimum standard of stay, which is currently at 14 days within the town of Southampton. So we also look at properties that are advertised for rent on these types of sites that don't have a rental permit within the town. We're actively engaged in that, and it's there's enough work to do in that we could occupy every single day and every hour of every day trying to constantly search for those types of things. There are whole businesses that are made to do that searching for people because it's a burdensome process. So, but it is something that we're constantly looking at and constantly going after, and there are people within this town that have been given notices of violation for their advertisements on Airbnb, VRBO, these other sites that don't meet the rental requirements for the town, either that they don't have a permit or that they aren't sticking in line with the minimum stay standards in the town.
I think that relaxing.
Amy, I'm
We can't-
sorry.
We still have to go to the Zoom.
Everything is being recorded. We cannot hear you at your seat. I will give you an opportunity to come back up to the podium if you wish to make your final comment. Or you can have a conversation with Ryan anytime, so. You guys will
Anytime.
take it separate. Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I just,
That's okay.
we'll hear you, but the people, the clerk's recording, nothing else will hear
And
it.
we still have to
so.
get people on Zoom.
We won't be able to get a written record from the meeting, so I'm sorry about that. All right? Hang on, Steve, you want to speak on this? Okay, all right. Yes, it's fine. Yeah, we're still in the public hearing.
This is not what I came here for, but Ryan also spoke at our CAC meeting, and I think this is also a great thing because it simplifies the process and it makes it easier for people to follow. And
That's the CAC West, just.
yeah, CAC West, sorry. And as a first responder, I've actually responded to a fire in a basement where these kids' rooms were, and luckily they weren't home and it wasn't that big of a fire, but there was no way that they were making it out of that fire and this maybe would make it easier that they actually would go and get a permit. They don't even have to go. It's a very simple process, and the inspector would probably tell them, hey, guys, you can't do this, and maybe something like that wouldn't happen. So I just wanted to
Appreciate that
Yep.
support and comment. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, is there anyone else who wishes to be heard at this public hearing from our audience? All right, Charles, anyone watching from their computers?
You have one hand.
Oh, it's Lorraine again.
Hi,
Hi, Lorraine.
my name is Lorraine Pacelio. I'm speaking on behalf of the Bayview Pine Civic and Taxpayer Association, Inc. And I didn't really review the actual law that's proposed, but a couple of the other members had, and this statement is put together by them. But I do have some other feedback, from what I heard tonight, so I'm going to interject. So we have many issues and concerns regarding the proposed rental law and oppose it as written. It's hard to understand how the law states that they are attempting to stop overcrowding with the proposed legislation, since it would allow up to 5 people per bedroom. I know that you said it depends on the square footage of the house, but it still states 5 people per bedroom. Very disturbing. That would mean a 2-bedroom house maybe could have 10 people living there, 10 cars parked. 4-bedroom house, 20 cars. We believe the current limitation is 2 beds per bedroom, and total occupancy depends on the square footage of the house. Of course, 5 people per bedroom would strain the resources of the community, such as further crowding of our schools, stressing out police and code enforcement departments, further increase to traffic and congestion, jeopardize the safety of the community, overflowing septic and garbage disposal, adding to pre-existing problems with front lawns turned into parking lots, and the associated increase in cost that would be passed disproportionately onto taxpayers. Instead of expanding the rental laws to allow higher occupancy, which it seems to be doing by allowing 5 people per bedroom, including less oversight, which is caused because there's no formal requirements by the town to inspect the rental property. If the town, and if the board really means to increase affordable housing, in addition to the housing fund that we spoke about earlier, the illegal short-term rental issues currently being promoted for all to see on Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, and I think Away Out East or something like that Mr. Ryan mentioned. These laws are not being enforced properly. These short-term rentals are available for less than 2 weeks. It's being done all the time. If you did a search, I did a search from July 28th through July 31st, far less than the 2 weeks required, and I produced over 381 properties on Airbnb alone. This must be stopped. It violates the short-term rental laws and adds to the deterioration of our quality of life on the East End due to parking, noise, traffic, and overcrowding. Imagine if those rental properties opened up to long-term residents. Imagine if the town fined all those people that were doing short-term rentals less than 2 weeks and said, no, you can't do this. And so they had to turn to longer-term rentals. How many more people could be staying potentially in a longer-term rental situation? Our current laws are already unenforceable. Therefore, increase in occupancy of homes will not alleviate overcrowding, but will only add additional laws that cannot and will not be enforced. The new law allows owners to provide their own statements to prove compliance with the code. This would be self-serving. This alone should be enough to shoot down the law, as without proper inspections at the outset will result in the cost of people's safety townwide. In conclusion, more people in housing that is already crowded with insufficient oversight will result in unsafe living conditions for renters and residents, threatening everyone's safety and enjoyment of life as we know it on the East End. Perhaps revising the current code with red lines indicating the changes would be clear to everyone exactly the changes that are being made. Also, when Southampton Town implemented the group housing law, it was to curtail the overcrowded homes and the problems that comes with the overcrowding. There was a party atmosphere which turned any quiet family neighborhood into a rambunctious free-for-all. The onslaught of noise and traffic violations that the year-round residents go through during the summer months is straining enough for this board to vote to allow the law to be expanded to permit 5 people to a bedroom is asking for bedlam and the deterioration of those quiet neighborhoods resided by your local citizens. We implore you to just so. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lorraine. I just want to ask Ryan for some clarification, because my read of the law is it's more restrictive in terms of how many people can live in a house, not less restrictive. Right now, it's, I think, 1 person per 50 square feet. It's going to 1 person per 100 square feet in general. So
Correct, Supervisor.
So it's half as many people.
Yeah, it's significantly decreasing the number of people that would otherwise be allowed in a house compared to the existing code and the code of the state of New York. Take, for example, a 300 square foot room. Under the current code, that would be a 6-person room. Under the new code, no room in a house, regardless of size, whether it's a 300 square foot room or a 600 square foot room, would be rated in a way to exceed 5 people. And that's not to say that a 300 square foot room would be rated for 5
Well, it
people
sounds like
either. It would be below that.
Under the
would be
code, it
below
sounds
that.
like 3.
There are many houses that I have looked at the rental permits for in the last couple of weeks, that large houses within the town. We have many, many large houses within the town. We all know this, that are also rental properties, that got a rating that would be under the proposed code, perhaps 23 people, where under the existing method of doing things would get a rating closer to 40 people on that household. That's not an exaggeration. So this is actually quite the significant decrease to the existing standard, and much more in line with trying to prevent overcrowding, trying to prevent party houses, trying to prevent undue burden on septic system and, create nitrogen issues. This is all in line with many of our other goals within the town. As far as inspections, the proposed code changes do not do anything to waive inspections on properties. There are 2 methods to get a rental permit in the town of Southampton. One is a standard application where one of our code enforcement staff conducts the inspection on the property. The other one is a certified application, which is when an architect, engineer, or home inspector would conduct an inspection on a property. No matter which pathway a person chooses, someone is conducting an inspection for the purposes of examining occupancy ratings within the house in line with the code, as well as safety standards in the house. They should be checking, GFI outlets, smoke detectors, CO detectors, things like that. The primary purpose of the inspection, whether we do it or another professional does it, is a safety inspection. It's to make sure that no one that's going to go into that house is going to be placed in danger, whether that's because there's no pool gate, pool alarm, or anything like that, or whether it's because it's missing smoke detectors. Those are the types of things that are looked for. So all of that still would exist. In fact, I think we take a great step towards expanding some of the capabilities there by adding licensed home inspectors into the cadre of individuals that can conduct a certified inspection. These are licensed, tested, instructed, bonded people within the state of New York. And it also is a cost savings to many folks that if they do buy a house and then wish to rent it out, many of them have already had a licensed home inspector through the house as part of the purchase activity, and so they could parlay that into the person filling out their certified application with them too, and perhaps experience a tremendous cost savings on that. So in no way does it increase the limits on the house. In fact, by staying the course with where we're at, we're preserving increased limits on structures that could pose some of those burdens on the community, the establishments within the community, whether it's the schools, this, that, the other thing. Any of the things that were referenced that experience a burden from increased occupancy would happen if we just stayed the way we were.
Thank you for that.
Do you want to add anything on to address some of the concerns?
So to address another concern, so we can't regulate advertisements. We're not in the business of regulating free speech. The internet is not necessarily within the town of Southampton. So what we do is we regulate actions associated with homeownership. We regulate occupancy limits. We regulate ways that people can rent, timeframes that people can rent. So they're time, manner, place regulations. We can't regulate free speech. It's just something we simply can't do. So that's why we've crafted these regulations in such a way. We have to respect people's constitutional rights. And I know that seems a little bit convoluted in some occasions, and without a background, a layperson may not understand that. But that's why we can't regulate people advertising on the internet.
So if somebody advertises for a 3-night rental, it doesn't mean they actually rented it for 3 nights, is that what you're saying?
Correct, there's no
They
act,
actually have
per
to
se.
engage in the rental activity before it's a violation.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
But a 3-night rental doesn't mean that they're going to rent for 3 nights and then another 3 nights and another. They have to do 3 nights within the 2-week window that's provided in our code. They can rent for 3 nights, so long as they don't rent for another 2 weeks or, well.
That's
10 days.
correct, Councilman.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And regardless, they have to have a rental permit.
They do, yes. So we're regulating the act of renting, not advertising. Right?
Right, I mean, there's homes throughout this community that aren't rented at all, but only used on the weekends.
Absolutely,
You know?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And, you know, years ago, those homes were in our rental stock. You know, Airbnb, Out East, VRBO, again, another factor that is squeezing our housing market.
it does, but that is true, but I know a number of people who, the only reason they're able to still stay in this community is because they can rent their houses for a little bit during the summer. It helps them pay their mortgage and deal with the cost of living.
They pay their property.
School teachers who are off for the summer cannot afford to stay in this community and sometimes will rent that house inside. You know, hopefully it'll be for the whole summer, but, you know, there might be a week here, a week there, just so that they don't have to move, so.
And that's why we don't prohibit it.
Right, and so it's fine, again, it comes back to finding that balance. There are other people who just abuse it and running houses like hotels. And,
Overcrowded.
you know,
And if I may, I'll also take the opportunity to address another concern about corporations. We can't regulate corporations or corporate entities different than people. What we can do is ask for proof, and we've simplified the documents that they're providing just to address this concern. So we are actually getting the name of one person who's applied for a rental permit on behalf of that corporation, rather than a pile of paper that, you know, you need a team of attorneys to understand. So
Yeah,
we are
that's good.
doing exactly what's asked. We're getting a person who's accountable for that corporation, a contact person, someone we can reach out to and get an answer about this property. I won't take up too much time. I know we have more people. There is a resolution of adoption calendared for the town board's July 12th meeting, if you're inclined.
so it's not in this packet.
It's not in this packet tonight, and I'd suggest the board leave written comment open. So if someone feels they missed the opportunity to speak, we can take their comment
That's
in
fair.
writing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, all right, I'm not sure we're done, though. Charles, is there anyone else on the computer that wanted to be heard?
No other news.
All right, so I'll make a motion to close the hearing, but leave the written record open for 2 weeks.
Second?
Seconded,
We'll second that.
seconded, is it your?
It
Sorry.
is, or it's Councilwoman McNamara and mine. But yes, 2 week.
All right,
Seconded.
all right, we'll
Vote
change
yes.
the motion to motion by Councilman Schiavone, second by Councilwoman McNamara. I just want to get the
Doesn't
meeting.
really matter to me.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I'm just trying to move along.
Let's keep going.
All right, so you got that,
We
Cindy?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's my job.
I know, but I was waiting.
I know, I wanted to make sure you had the motion from Council Schiavone. I was trying to confirm.
Sorry,
And a second by,
just trying to keep things
all right,
moving.
Councilwoman McNamara. Okay, so that's the last public hearing. We're going to move on to public portion. During public portion, you can speak on any topic you so desire. We'll start with our audience. Is there anyone who wishes to be heard on any subject during public portion? Steve?
It's your night, Steve.
Number 3.
Again, from the CAC West meeting, I learned that there was some sort of bill, some kind of law coming to action on clearing restrictions or something like that. And before it is complete, I was just hoping to, I guess, offer my assistance as an arborist and speak to whoever's working on it to try to come up with some sort of a fair thing before we just get bombarded with restrictions in our industry. I
Well,
guess.
speak to me afterwards. I'll put
Yeah.
you in touch with
Okay.
Janice. and-
That's it. Thank you, guys, and
Thank you.
good job.
Okay. All right. Anyone else who wishes to be heard in public portion? Amy, you're good? Okay. Charles, do we have anybody online looking to be heard in public portion? No hands. I'll make a motion to close public portion.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. To the agenda. We're going to start with Resolution 569 being offered by Councilman Bouvier.
And co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone is to authorize the supervisor to execute a consulting services agreement with Laura Smith to
We
provide.
need to, we can withdraw this, I think.
Again?
Yeah, so I have tried to resolve this matter unsuccessfully, so
All right.
you go ahead and withdraw it.
So make a motion to withdraw?
Well, you don't have to do it by motion, but do the two co-sponsors consent to it being withdrawn?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not going to see this again next,
No, Sunday, it's off the agenda, okay?
Okay.
All right, and we'll move on to 681 of 22, approval of Village of Southampton revised concept plan for CPF acquired Moses Lane parcel. I actually gonna try to,
Second.
hold on, I gotta table this one too. I want to discuss it in work session. Unless you guys all have looked at the two different plans? Have you looked at the two different plans and are comfortable with it? The original plan and the changes to the plan? I have some questions myself, so.
yeah, I do too.
All right, I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry
Table to
about
the
that.
next town board meeting?
To the next town board meeting.
Town Board Resolution 687 of 2022 is co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorize the purchase of office trailer from Casone Leasing Incorporated from Suffolk County contract.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Town Board Resolution 688 of 2022 to authorize the supervisor to amend contract with Cablevision Lightpath.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right, 689, authorize supervisor to execute a 2022 contract with Mayday Communications, Inc. for the digital voice recording system utilized in the 911 dispatch center of the police department.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 690 of 2022, authorize supervisors to sign a contract with LK McLean Associates, P.C. to provide professional services for a new maintenance garage at 30 Club Lane, Noyak.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 691 of 22, authorize the Hampton Bays Volunteer Ambulance Corp. to move internal funds.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 692, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, Councilman Martell, and Councilman Bouvier. You missed
can
it.
second it.
And wait till you hear what it is.
I don't even-
Authorize the purchase of 4 Chevrolet Malibu from New York State OGS contract with Eagle Auto Mall
That's one
Sales,
for
Inc.
each of us.
Second.
Yeah, we're gonna take the second from Councilwoman McNamara. I don't know how this
I
happens.
don't either.
But I guess Malibus are very popular. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board, yeah.
Go ahead.
Town Board Resolution 693 of 2022 to authorize the renewal of Proof Point through a Sourcewell contract with Software House International, SHI.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 694 of 2022, authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with High Tech Air Conditioning Service, Inc. for HVAC repairs located at Town Hall.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Is there
approved.
any timeline on that happening?
Not that I know of. Should be.
On what
I think
happening?
there was a
This-
back order.
Oh, finishing the repairs?
No, the lower level has no AC.
The basement?
The lower level.
Oh, yes, you don't go to the basement. Right. Thank you. There are several floors below that, so I know which one you're talking about. Where Housing and Community Development
Yes.
Yes.
and CTV are located. Okay. Yeah, I don't know when that's gonna get fixed. All right, so we had a motion, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 695 of 2022, authorize the supervisor to execute 5-year contract with Lucy Gooley as an interpreter for the Justice Court.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 696 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, is to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Lawrence Indemnity Consulting Corp. for appraisal of 43 Hill Street, Village of Southampton.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 697 of 2022, also co-sponsored with Councilor Scavone, to authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Lawrence Indemnity Consulting Corporation for appraisal at 48 Madison Street, Sag Harbor.
I did have a question on this one. On the first resolve, it says 2 Bluff Lane.
Oh, you're right.
Okay,
It got
so-
pulled from the other one. We need to make the correction.
Right.
Can we amend this
Value,
one?
yeah, so it would be just
It should all
third
be
48 Madison Street, Sag Harbor.
Yep.
Just to do an amendment, so make a motion to
Okay.
amend it to strike 2 Bluff Lane and put in 48 Madison Street.
So
I think
moved.
the tax lot looks correct.
All right, so that the motion is seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and now a motion to approve as amended.
motion.
Same, and
Make the
Second.
motion.
a second by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, thank you for catching that.
Well, hold on.
We're on to
It's
six.
making me think of something else.
You want to change it?
Just the funding. No, we're good.
Okay, so we're at 698 of 22, authorize, award and authorize supervisor to sign contract for Southampton Youth Services basketball and tennis court additions with Pioneer Landscaping and Asphalt Paving, Inc.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. So that's at the North Sea Complex. How is it, oh, I know SYS is doing that, but I guess we're getting reimbursed, I'm not sure how that works. It's funded through the SYS Reserve Fund.
There's no cost for this project to the town, project to be funded by the reserve fund.
Okay, 699 of 2022 amends the 2022 through 26 capital budget and adds capital project townwide sustainable infrastructure.
On the motion, Sunday, I'd like to be added as co-sponsor.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, are you seconding?
I will
John?
second it.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 700 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Bouvier, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2022 stewardship agreement with Alan Schneider to provide security services at Squiretown Park in Hampton Bays.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, 701 of 22, authorize town controller to hire Robert Half account temps.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor? Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 702 of 2022 to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract extension with Contemporary Computer Services Incorporated, CCSI, for managed network services.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
Town Board Resolution 703 of 2022 to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Sherry Winehouse as host for Sun 20 TV.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 704 of 22, allocation of ARPA's coronavirus federal grant and amends 2023 to 2026 capital budget and adds capital project Noyak Road pedestrian enhancements. I'm going to let Councilman Scavone second this.
Second.
This is your initiative here. So this is for, I think we're taking 250, correct? Yes, 250 in that fund to match, I believe, Fred Thiel or someone
A
in
New York
Thiel?
State grant is also being allocated in the same amount to install a multi-use path is what we're looking for it to be, to link
So
up.
it's like phase one of a
Yeah.
sidewalk project.
Yes.
Multi-use paths
Right.
bicycles, I guess, and
In that
That's good.
critical area of
So,
NOAC where you
know,
just can't get
for the
through.
board's edification, sometimes the state money, it may take longer. We'll have to lay out the full amount, the 500,000. That's why it's written this way, but we will get then a 250 back at a later date.
The SAM grant, but then,
But not the COVID.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, the coronavirus money is, we have an account already.
okay.
All right, so I made the motion, this was seconded by Councilman Scavone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved. 705 of 2022, also an allocation of the same pot of money, the ARPA coronavirus federal grant for purchase of a 240 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays.
Second?
So we would be, seconded by the liaison to the trustees, Councilwoman McNamara. So we would be taking 1 million from this fund for, toward purchasing the building that I think we held a public hearing on.
Yeah, we did last
Week, yeah.
last town board meeting.
Did we vote on the resolution authorizing me to sign the contract yet?
That's what this is.
That's coming up?
Yes, that should be in here today.
All right, probably should have had that precede this, but this would allow the 1 million to be used toward that purchase. All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approved. All right, 706 of 2022 amends the 2022 budget for various departments. It's housekeeping.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, approved. 707 of 22, authorize supervisor to sign statement of annual financial and operating information and file with the Securities and Exchange Commission.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 708 of 22, accepts resignation of Robin Long from the Planning Board, sorry.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. We haven't done this one yet?
No.
No,
Okay.
it's coming next.
No, we haven't accepted Robin's resignation yet.
No, it just got submitted.
Oh, okay. So I'll say a word. Robin has served for a number of years. I think she was in her second term there. And did a great job, and I think brought a great deal of legal expertise and a great attention to detail and understanding of planning. And Robin moved from this area. I'm sure she would have loved to serve some more, but her daughter in Texas, I think, is living in Texas as her grandchild and wanted, I think, to spend more time with family. So, we miss Robin, but we reluctantly accept her resignation. Anybody else? I know you guys know her well, so.
Well, everything you said, since knowing Robin for a long time, she's to us, to my family, she's family, so we'll miss her a lot. But the phone keeps ringing, so.
You're in touch.
So we're in touch.
All right. Tommy John?
Well, she moved to Texas, and we certainly will miss her, and we will miss her expertise on the planning board. She's certainly has changed this community, and I'm sure she will do so in San Antonio.
So in this, I guess we're backdating this to May 13th? That's when she-
Well, it's when it was submitted, but this didn't come forward until.
Oh, she submitted the
Yeah,
resignation at that point. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Was there a second? I don't remember.
John Bouvier.
John, okay.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
I'm going to second the next.
moving on to Resolution 709 of 2022, which is co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilman Scavone. It will appoint Kate Fulham to the Planning Board. Is that to fill, that is to fill the vacancy?
That's to fill the vacancy. right.
Left. I don't know how much time is left, till December of 31st of 2023, so it's a year and a half.
Roughly.
Roughly, appointment. This is Kate Fulham. Who's my second?
I am.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier, and I know you've all had the opportunity to meet Kate. She's very talented, very smart, and I believe very hardworking, and will bring a very broad perspective, community perspective to the planning board. Strong environmental background, but also very strong administrative background, understands, I believe, the needs of working people in the community. A lot of the issues we discussed, from affordable housing to the survival of small businesses, infrastructure and sustainability. She seems to have a real interest in all of that, so I think she'll be an excellent member of the planning board. With that, I'll turn it over to anyone else who wants to say anything before we vote on it.
No, I agree. I'm very happy with the makeup of the planning board. We're doing it by skill set. So we have people with, a background in traffic and engineering, and people with those background. It evens out the board's ability to take a broad view of an application and deal with it. So I'm looking forward to Kate's addition to this board, because I think they'll do fantastic work.
Anyone else? Okay, we had a motion to second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous. She's approved. 710 of 2022 authorized the settlement of the litigation matter of Vijfinkel. Did I do okay?
Did. Perfect. Name be to pronounce the name.
Versus Southampton. I don't want to get another lawsuit. Vijfinkel versus Southampton Town Conservation Board et al.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. I don't think anybody's sued for mispronouncing their name. Not yet. All right, 7/11 of 2022 is co-sponsored by Councilman Bouvier and Councilwoman McNamara. It is a resolution of adoption of a local law enacting Town Code Chapter 90 entitled Smoking Prohibited in Designated Non-Smoking Areas. Who would like to second?
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. As you recall, we held a public hearing on this. It really grew out of the state legalizing recreational marijuana, which now can be used very similar to cigarettes. Everywhere a cigarette can be smoked, so could a marijuana cigarette. So this basically says that smoking is now going to be prohibited at our parks. That will cover both cigarettes and will cover marijuana, so that people don't have to deal with side stream smoke or offensive smells. So that's really what it does. It names some parks in particular in their entirety, like Good Ground Park and Red Creek Park and the North Sea Sports Complex and several others, and lifeguarded beaches, pavilions, all kinds of common areas are covered in this law. And, I want to thank Sean Cambridge for working with me, as well as the rest of the board, on trying to come up with some reasonable restrictions that will protect public health. I think it's a good law. So, anyone else on it?
Sunday, could I be added to that, please?
Sure. All right, so Councilman Martell is being added as a co-sponsor. Any other comments?
Going once.
Going twice? All right, I'll vote.
Yes, Sunday, could I be added to it as well? I don't want to be the odd person out with the smoking.
The smoking
code
gun?
and-
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Approved.
Town Board Resolution 712 of 2022, waive a portion of the showmobile fees for the San Gennaro Feast of the Hamptons.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. This waives $2,800 in fees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are you voting?
I'm going to abstain on that as a former board member, please.
Figured.
Yeah, you don't really have to. It's up to you, because there's no personal gain.
Feel more comfortable that way.
Okay.
I got very confused because I kept reading snowmobile.
Yeah, showmobile, yeah. Well, hopefully it won't rain in, what is this, September 24th?
Yeah, we hope so.
All right, I know you're still involved with it, right?
Yeah,
So,
guidance.
Guidance, but yeah, if you don't have a financial interest, it probably would be okay to vote.
Yeah, that was the advice I had on council, but I would still rather abstain.
Individual choice, I mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes it'd be,
Yeah,
better to be safe than.
Nobody raises a
Yeah.
question then,
thrown back.
that you used your influence to get an organization a discount, so, all right, that's fair enough. All right, so we voted, right? All in favor, yes, it was one abstention and four yeses. All right, 713 of 22 accepts resignation of Michael Conroy, a heavy equipment operator in Municipal Works.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 714 of 22 accepts resignation of Robert Navratil, the Public Safety Dispatcher 1 in Police Department.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 715 of 22 accepts resignation of Melissa Rankin, Ordinance Inspector in Public Safety.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in
That's a
favor?
sad one. But
Yeah.
she's going to school, I believe, too.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I don't say the names on the resignations, but 716 of 22 accepts resignation of Allison Spano.
I'm sorry.
We didn't vote on
We
that.
didn't
vote.
on that.
Oh, we didn't vote on 715? Okay, I'm sorry.
7:15.
715, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. 716 of 22 accepts resignation of Allison Spano, Management Technician, Public Safety. I need a
Second.
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 Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 717 of 22 accepts resignation of Lisa Smith, Senior Budget Analyst in Controller's Office.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 718 of 22 appoints Jeff Ulysses to planner position in Land Management.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved, and congratulations to Jeff. 719 of 22 appoints Michael Chi to Senior Building Inspector position in Building Department.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 720 of 22 appoints Jacqueline Fenlon to Principal Environmental Analyst position in Community Preservation.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 721 of 22 appoints Thomas Weber, Senior Building Inspector position in Building Department.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 722 of 22 appoints Teresa Mahone to Building Permits Examiner position in Building Department.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 723 of 22 appoints Robert Mannion to Building Inspector position in Building Department.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. 724 of 22 appoints Alexis Moranchel to Scale Operator position, Waste Management.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved, and congratulations to all those appointees.
Yeah.
Move
All
on.
needed, really needed.
Yeah. Well, we lost a bunch of people, and we found some, so.
Town Board Resolution 725 of 2022, co-sponsored with Councilman Martell. Notice of public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 312, Vehicles and Traffic, to temporarily allow left turns at the eastbound intersection of County Road 39 and Shrubland Road.
Second?
Seconded by Councilman Martell. So this would be a hearing on, what, a 2-week, or is that how long it is? Suspension, a 2-week pilot program? Yeah.
Yes.
On the motion?
14, yeah, that's before we get into debating it.
No.
The hearing is the 12th
No debate.
of July 12th, 2022. Councilman Scavone.
Right, I just would certainly want the sponsors to address the fact that there's a school at the end of at the end of Sabonic Road and McGee Street, with whatever presentation we have for this particular change. I don't necessarily have well, let's just leave it there. But I also am interested in the goals of this and how it's going to be measured, particularly in the summer months when the school is out. So, just be we need to hear those things. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? All right, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. That will be held
July 12th.
July 12th at 1 o'clock here at Town Hall, but we also will have provisions for zooming in. All right, 7/26 of '22, notice of public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 50, Open Government, to remove the requirement that particular interviews be conducted in public.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. This hearing will be July 12th, '22. I'll just explain it real briefly, too. There's I don't even know how old it is, but there's a provision in the town code that is probably 15 years old or so, that requires that candidates for planning and zoning, I think, boards and conservation board be interviewed in public. We've traditionally interviewed them in executive session, in private, feeling like we can ask, I think, deeper probing questions, and we will attract more candidates. And if we held it here in public, it would not be fair really to the individual, and probably would discourage some very well-qualified people from wanting to be considered for the seats. So it's although there was a law in the books, I don't believe any board ever followed it. But when I became aware of it, I felt it would be good to at least have the public hearing to discuss whether the hearings would better serve the community in an executive session, like other candidates for jobs within the town are always done in private. So, all right, any questions about that? All right. There was a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. John, I think was the second.
Thank you.
So 7/27 of 2022. This is a resolution authorizing acquisition of lands of Sag Harbor Antique Fire Truck, Inc., and amending the CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property. John, do you want to second this one?
I do.
All right.
He just did.
He just did. So seconded by Councilman Scavone. You, I think, recall this. I think it's on Bridge Sag Turnpike as you're heading in, it's pretty close to Sag Harbor. It's right in that Ligony Creek. Is that what it's called, Ligony Brook? Or
Yeah, Ligony Creek bisects these three parcels. Two
Right.
are on the Sag Harbor Village side and one's Southampton Town side.
There's three pieces owned by that not-for-profit, the Antique Fire Truck Corporation, and we're paying $775,000 for all total for the three parcels. And I think it's a good open space acquisition, good environmental acquisition. Tommy John, did you want to say anything about it else?
We've been working on this for, I think, 2 years now, and it certainly is. It's a highly sensitive area. Ligony Creek goes right through it. In the second whereas, it's a really interesting reading on these wetlands. This is a red maple swamp, redlands, and of course, wetlands, rather. And it's a good acquisition in an area where it's difficult to get acquisitions.
All right. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved.
And I appreciate the Antique Fire Truck Corporation for offering these parcels. That's important.
And I think they found another property, right, to house their antique fire trucks.
They did.
All right, 7/28 of 2022, resolution authorizing the purchase of 240 West Montauk Highway, Hampton Bays. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. We held a public hearing on this, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Seconded by Councilwoman McNamara. So this is, I guess, a former doctor's or dentist's office?
Both, yeah.
And
Yeah.
doctor, there's doctor downstairs, dentist upstairs.
And, we looked at this building. It's getting more and more challenging in a number of ways for our workforce and for our public. I mean, we're an expanding town, expanding needs. The traffic is frustrating. Most of our population still is west of the canal. The cost for us building new facilities is through the roof. So when we, are trying to bring services closer to people and make government more accessible, it's making more and more sense sometimes to acquire commercial buildings rather than build them. And that was the case as we looked for office space, for housing and community development, and for town trustees. And this building became available in Hampton Bays East Quogue area. It's really well suited for the trustees' purpose, and there's still plenty of room left over for housing and community development, and we believe Bay Constables in a separate building in the back. So, and we discussed earlier that half of the cost is coming from the ARPA money, the federal coronavirus money. So this will help encourage people who want to, let's say, run for trustee, might be a little closer to where they live, or trustees that are currently serving. Not in all cases, because you do have trustees east of the canal. But the trustees do provide a lot of services that the public comes for, so it'll make it more accessible. Ultimately, that decision to place the trustees there, though I think it's understood, I think we have to make a formal, I don't know if we do that by vote in terms of space allocation, but there is a committee. The trustees, should they go there, will pay rent to the town for that space, a rent that will cover the cost of the fair market rent and utilities and all of those things. So I think this is I think it's an important step. I think it's good for the town, and I don't want to run on. It's getting late. It's already 8:30, but I'm going to support this, and I hope others do as well.
Their support staff would go with them, and they would still have their main meetings here, just so.
It's really up to them. They may have meetings in the public safety building. There's that new meeting we had there, or they could have it at the Hampton Bays Senior Center. So I don't know. That really hasn't been decided. They obviously could continue to meet here too, but it might be easier for them to meet there in the public safety. We built that new room.
I agree.
What was that, Charles?
He agrees.
Okay.
The voice.
Which one? That it's easier for them to meet here or public safety?
Yes, sir.
Well, we have to wire that room at the public safety building so that they can meet there as well. All right, we had a motion second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 729 of 2022 is a road review application for 354 St. Andrews Road, West, HBG. The Suffolk County tax map is indicated on the resolution. Situated at Shinnecock Hills is accepted.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Town
Approved.
Board Resolution 730 of 2022 is a road review application for Diane Ardolino. Suffolk County tax map is indicated in the resolution. Situated at Flanders is accepted.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Town Board Resolution 731 of 2022 is a road review application for KM Farrell Real Estate LLC. Suffolk County tax map is indicated of the resolution. Situated at North Sea is accepted.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
And I know you'll be disappointed, this is the last one. Town Board Resolution 732 of 2022 is a road review application for KM Farrell Real Estate LLC. Suffolk County tax map is indicated on the resolution, and the resolution. Situated at North Sea is accepted.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Scavone. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, approved. All right, to the walk-ons. Resolution 40743. Acknowledge and approve public art installation at Canoe Place Inn in Hampton
This
Bays.
is going to be known as the Big Deer.
Second.
The second, all right, we have to explain, and I don't talk about these things for your edification so much as the public. So, seconded by Councilman Martell. So we had a provision in the approval process for the hotel in Hampton Bays, the Canoe Place Inn, and the boathouses that on the other side of the canal. But in terms of public art, we have, and I don't love this provision, but public art has to be accepted or acknowledged by the town board. And they do want to put an outdoor sculpture. It happens to be a very large deer. It's a fiberglass, the deer that, ate the Hamptons, sort of. It's very big. It's, I think, 16 foot tall.
Big duck's still bigger.
So, yeah, it's not as big as the big duck. It's sort of being placed in a way that won't be so obvious, but I'm sure if you're on the property and possibly you might be able to see it going over the bridge. I don't know.
I think it's gonna be a target for vandalism, pun intended.
So,
But if you see the deer going over the bridge, we have a real serious problem.
I don't want to be a judge of what is art, even though I've taken plenty of art classes. It really, art is a very subjective matter. What one person thinks is great art, another person thinks is horrible art. I don't know how the community of Hampton Bays...
Case in point, the reason why we got this.
How the community of Hampton Bays will greet this, I don't know, but it is kind of an interesting thing. It will certainly spur conversation and no doubt a lot of selfies as people go there to try to pet the deer or whatever they might do. So the Recklers who have proposed this are certainly supporters of art and culture, and they have placed a lot of art in public places, and this is their choice, and I'm not going to second guess them. I know not everybody loves at the Gabreski Industrial Park, but it certainly has grown on me, and I think it's grown on a lot of the community. So, so be it. So I wish we weren't even part of the art approval process. But with that said,
Well, this isn't going to take away from the beauty of the inn that they're building. It's tucked away in such a way that you really have to look for it, whether you're going east or west. It's not going to take away from the landscape. And as the trees mature, I doubt you'll even see it from the road.
well, the deer often eat the vegetation. If they start eating, if this can eat the tops of the...
8 feet wide and 20 feet long.
It's only
The
3 hours
trees.
to midnight.
All right. No, thanks, John. You want to move things along? I didn't propose a
No,
giant
I'm
deer.
thinking of too many deer puns.
Oh, yeah, boy.
Well, it's not the only deer work of art in the image of a deer in Hampton Bays. There's one on Lynn Avenue.
Oh, is there?
Right.
Well, it's funny, there's, as you come,
Private property.
as you arrive on the South Fork, you pass Stargazer, which has become a beloved sculpture. It's not in the town of Southampton. it's
Technically a stag.
in Manor. Oh,
Not a deer, it's a stag.
It's a stag?
It's Sunday.
Is it a
Got
pup?
antlers?
I'm trying to avoid too many deer puns here, but I do have a few. Okay.
We'll come down that quick here.
Thank you.
Okay.
So close.
All right, I don't remember. We voted,
We
right?
didn't vote.
No,
We didn't
there's
vote.
not even a second.
There's not even, is there?
No, I second.
You know,
Do I have a
Councilman
second?
Martell.
Councilman Martell, second.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Dear me. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? All right. No, it was unanimous.
This was going to happen. Sorry.
All right. So the deer is coming to Hampton Bays. All right. We're on 40745. It's warrant number 12, capital number 12, CPF number 12, and payroll liability.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, approved. All right, we are now at 40749, notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of property located at 1045 Flying Point Road, Watermill, New York.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martell. This hearing would be 6 PM on July 26th, in person as well as via Zoom. This is, Jim, this is the property that
It's the existing
adjoins
parking lot. Yeah, it's just-
Flying Point Beach.
Exactly, and we've been using it, we've been using it under a lease, at least for many years, and
We have about half the parking lot of Flying Point beach is on this property.
That's correct, right.
So, but
Everything
there's
kind
also
of
quite
basically
a,
north of that kind of northern part of the parking lot.
and then this is quite a bit of oceanfront property here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a,
Yeah.
would be important.
Yeah, we were working with the Fortune Group, who have been very good to work with, so we appreciate their cooperation. on it.
And the price, what, Jim, is it, does it say here?
On here?
Doesn't say.
Yeah, it doesn't say in here, but it is.
It doesn't say, but.
It's 100.
That's why we have the
100,000?
public hearing.
We think 100,000?
It is 100,000.
Yeah, okay. So, do we have a second? Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. Now, last but certainly not least, Resolution 40750, appointing Dorota Godlewski, Town Controller,
Second.
seconded by...
I feel like I spend most of my time in the controller's
Oh, yeah,
office.
no, she's doing a wonderful job. Seconded by Councilman Bouvier. And again, we just have to do this because, I don't know what happened Sunday, she didn't come and take the oath? In the 30 days?
The oath was not accomplished.
The oath?
We will make sure that it is.
Okay, so you're supposed to take the oath within 30 days, and I guess she's been so involved in the controller's office that probably didn't even realize that the oath had to be
We
taken.
missed each other a couple times.
Oh, you missed each other? Okay.
We tried.
Fair enough, it happens.
She's a great addition.
She's been very busy.
Been
and
very
she's-
busy.
And she's doing a great job
She
over there.
really is.
So I'm happy to appoint her a second time. All right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Approved. All right, that is it for resolutions. Is there any other business?
Small stuff.
Hearing none, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McNamara. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
Just so you know, most of this meeting.